If you looked at your body under a microscope, what would you see? Would you see gears, nuts, bolts, pistons, mechanical parts? Of course not. What you'd see is organ systems, and if you look deeper, you'd see cells. Then you would see molecules, atoms. You'd look into the atom, you'd see subatomic quarks, photons, and finally you would see waves of energy floating through space. And yet, we continue to treat our bodies as if they are mechanical systems. When we go to the doctor, we treat our body as a mechanical system. But we all know from advanced quantum physics that we are, in fact, energy systems. Now, an amazing thing about this is that we have found that when a scientist merely observes a subatomic wave of energy, that wave behaves differently. We call this the observer effect. And the significance of this is that we've discovered that there's no such thing as anything empirical, because the scientist, merely by observing something, changes it. Why is this important to you? Well, there's a popular term that's been coined to make this all simpler, and it's called the law of attraction. I've just explained a little bit about the quantum physics behind it, but the law of attraction says that our thoughts create realities. And of course we can see that when we see that on a subatomic level, our thoughts literally change the configuration of energy waves in our body and our brain. Another way of looking at this is to say that we are all like satellite dishes, sending frequencies out and attracting like frequencies back to us. Now this map is the 4DQ map that's on my website, and you'll see 8 steps, starting with self-awareness, going to optimism, integrity, compassion, noble purpose. I've superimposed this map on this drawing of a satellite dish to illustrate that when you develop these kinds of skills like compassion, integrity, optimism, you're going to be sending a different kind of frequency out into the biosphere and attracting a different frequency back to you. Now, a lot of people, how many people have heard of the law of attraction, first of all? Everybody in the room, almost. A lot of people are hearing this and going, all right, I'm going to make $1 million. All I have to do is say affirmations over and over again. I'm making $1 million. I'm going to bring in $1 million. No, wait. If I'm going to do this, I want 10 million. Okay, I'm going to bring in $10 million. No, I want $20 million. And they do this over and over again, and what happens? $20 million, somebody said nothing. Right, nothing. Why is that? If our thoughts create actualities, why can't I think $1 million and find it on my doorstep? Well, we have 3 brains. I'll bet you didn't know that. Everybody in this room has 3 brains. First, we have our neocortex, which is our thinking brain. That's where all our conscious thoughts are. But below that, we have our emotional brain, which is called the limbic system. And even on a deeper level, we have something called the reptilian brain, which is the brain that regulates things like breathing, heartbeat, digestion. It also is the brain that goes into survival, fear, and things like that. Now, this iceberg is kind of an illustration of our 3 brains, because our thinking brain is on the surface. We can see it. But below the surface is the emotional brain and the reptilian brain. And guess which brain always wins out? That's right, the reptilian brain rules. If it's between your conscious thinking and that instinctual reptilian brain, forget it. The reptilian brain dominates. That's a survival mechanism we have in order for the species to continue. So, if I'm reciting affirmation after affirmation, I'm only programming my conscious thinking mind. And I can be thinking $1 million, but if my emotional programming says, man, nothing good ever happens to me because only corrupt people make $1 million and I'm honest. Or our reptilian brain's going, how am I going to pay for my rent tomorrow and my bills, that fear is going to dominate the frequency we're sending out. And what I want to say to each of you is this is really important because each of us is, in our own way, manifesting dreams, and we're all working on this in one way or another, and most of us are employing only the surface of our energy systems because we're sending frequencies out from all three brains, and the frequencies down here, they are powerful. Those are the dense frequencies that are often ruling our life. How many of you have heard somebody say, "Why does this always happen to me? Why me?" I see some hands going up. The reason is because whatever you're thinking, there's some programming, there's some patterning in the reptilian and emotional brains, and we just can't ignore that. This is why I want to talk to you about the law of attraction and what is wrong with it. It's not our thoughts that create realities. It's the frequencies that we're sending out from our energy body. Remember, we're all waves of energy floating through space. When we change our frequency, that's when we're sending a different frequency out and getting a different frequency back. And we can't just work with our conscious thoughts. This is why I'm so excited about source work and quantum energy-based medicine, because we can really change the frequencies that are in your energy body without working for years and years with the conscious mind. I had a client last week who said, "Wow, this really is working with my unconscious mind. I don't even have to work at it." And it's true, because if you're working at it, it's all thinking, it's all up here. But this is actually a natural evolution if we can work with the frequencies that are happening since birth in your body, and they can shift more quickly than you think. Now, we, with our five senses, are only picking up a narrow spectrum of the frequencies that exist. In other words, we have five senses, and they're interpreters of information, but we're not seeing the full spectrum of reality. You can see this if you have a dog whistle and you blow that whistle and the dog goes wild, and we can't hear it because that sound of that dog whistle is outside of our frequency range. By the same token, dolphins and whales communicate using sonar. We can't hear it. I want to propose to you that that scientists have actually said we're only capturing with our senses like 1% or less of what actually exists. Why is this significant? Because all these frequencies are going on in our lives that we can't perceive with our five senses, and they are influencing us. I've had clients come to me and talk about their families and how they feel like a black sheep in their family. My family doesn't understand me, they don't love me, they did this to me, they hurt me, they wounded me. And what's really happening is this person has expanded beyond the narrow band of frequency that their family is able to understand. And as we expand the frequency, we can look at our family differently and realize that they're loving us as much as they can. They're just operating within a different frequency band than we are. And as we expand our frequency, we begin to have compassion for them, and we begin to realize that we were loved and they were just doing the best they could. A person walking around feeling that they weren't loved and they were hurt and they were misunderstood and traumatized and nobody cared is going to be sending out a different frequency from somebody who sees their family as doing the best they could, loving them in the only way they knew how. So when we work with frequencies, we work with the emotional body, the physical body, we are changing the whole configuration of how we look at life, and we're changing what we're attracting. This can work with relationships, this can work with our own sense of personal well-being, and it can work with money as we change our emotional blueprint, because we all have blueprints that we're not aware of in regards to these factors and issues. There's a whole section on my website about law of attraction if you want to know further about it, and there are all kinds of pages that have pictures like this to make it fun and simple. So I encourage you to go to the Law of Attraction page. That's Dr. Darin, DRDARIN.com, and thank you very much.